Good day, everyone. Richard Cowperthwait for Northwest Access TV. Thanks for joining us. We're talking some big Swanton Village issues today. Happy to have three guests. Eugene LeBombard, Swanton Village trustee, Bill Sheets, the Swanton Village manager, and Jason Starr. Jason, I'll start with, wastewater treatment facility supervisor, which I guess is somewhat close to your big job. But anyway, good to see you. Welcome. And again, wastewater is a big topic today, but as I said, as we set off here, I'd like to think we won't be talking wastewater for the whole hour, as good a subject as it is, but I guess that's what we're starting with. Bill, you want to jump in on, you have a big wastewater issue hanging over Swanton Village at this point, I guess,
We do. We have an aging facility. By the time construction begins, we will not have had an upgrade for approximately 30 years.
Really? Wow.
So we're in the process finalizing. We believe it's going to be an approximately $8 million project. We're going to go to bond in a little over 8 weeks. We hope to go to bond for this November 7th. I'll talk about open house dates and public hearing dates in a moment, but essentially it is not to increase capacity. It is to do a couple different things. It's primarily to upgrade old and dated equipment to include the centrifuge that does dewatering for our sludge, and then, as importantly, to reduce phosphorus in Lake Champlain.
And in fact, the state has had a directive, whatever, for I guess municipal wastewater municipalities who have wastewater facilities to reduce the amount of phosphorus that's being discharged from the plants. And without that directive from the state, would you not be doing this, or would you need to be doing a lot of this anyway? And Eugene, feel free to jump in too, and Jason.
Mm-hmm. I think in the case of some of the equipment, like the centrifuge, we would have to be doing.
So it sounds like you had some work to do anyway, huh?
And probably right now.
Yeah.
And in the case of phosphorus, I think everybody's pretty aware of the state mandates on this issue and trying to clean up northern Lake Champlain.
Yeah.
And all waterways in general.
Yeah.
So that was a stimulus for the initial planning 2 and 3 years ago.
Yeah.
When we were trying, and I think Jason could speak more closely to this, with chemicals alone, but the chemical costs were limitless, if you wish.
Yeah.
And so we have to go this way.
That's right. How's the plant running? Again, an aging plant, Jason. Is it doing about as well as could be expected given the age?
It's running well for what it is.
Yeah.
But she definitely needs some upgrades. Some of the equipment we're finding we can't get replacement parts for.
Wow.
So we're kind of cannibalizing stuff to keep it running. But in all, it's doing what it should. Our numbers are all good at going out. So we're gonna just keep her going until we get this upgrade, and then we'll have new equipment and we can get replacement parts right off the shelf. So that'll be nice.
Interesting. So again, state mandate. I'm sure the state's helping you with the funding, of course, with the state mandate bill, right? I'm kidding. They're getting
actually the answer is yes. Really? So this is premature. We'll have much more. So we're going to do a few things. So I guess it's probably timely now.
Yeah.
We're going to do 5 open houses at the wastewater treatment facility.
Wow.
2 on Saturday, October 14th at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m.
Yeah.
And then 3 on Thursday, October 19th, 10 a.m., 2 p.m., 6 p.m.
Interesting.
And that's an opportunity for folks to come down and kind of see what we have. And it's rather unique with 2 15-acre lagoons and the process that's used, and our dewatering and our land application and where we keep the sludge. The whole process, pretty fascinating for me. Coming in from a background that had none of this, mind-blowing. And of course, we want to just do the best we can to educate the public. We plan on right now, this is going to be news to my esteemed trustee here, but we're looking to have a public forum on October 30th, which is a Monday night, to meet the requirements to be within 10 days of the bond vote. And at that point, we'll definitively be able to lay out, well, we have a few things in the pipeline. We have some 2% loan through state revolving loan funds. We have some loan forgiveness. We have some grants. We have probably $4.9 million that we'll actually have to borrow out of the $8 million. So while it's not complete, it does certainly help. And at the end of the day, we're hoping for as little impact on our voters as we can. But I think people generally understand you have to take care of those two needs, Lake Champlain and our internal capability of meeting wastewater demands.
Yeah. Well, good luck on the open house. I would think that might be of interest to me. I've certainly never really dealt with that issue much. With a personal look at it, but I would think that might be of some interest to folks to get a look at, just how the plant runs and stuff. So hopefully you get some folks out for that.
I hope so. Yeah.
And again, this is a Swanton Village issue. We're talking a vote of Swanton Village villagers here,
Correct.
not Swanton Town residents.
Correct.
Outside of the village.
The increased fees will be anybody that is on our wastewater system.
Yeah. Are there a few villagers who were not on the system?
I'll defer on that.
Not sure
many.
not many.
Not many.
No, I
Might
can
have
only
a few
think about
septic people in there.
Yeah.
a handful. I want to say
Yeah.
between 5 and 10, I believe.
In fact, how many, have you got a number, Jason? How many folks are on the system in the village?
I believe it's around like 25 to 2,900
Yeah,
are on the wastewater system.
yeah. And November 7, of course, it's an off-year election year. That would be election day, and where'd November 7 come from? Is that just...
That is that's a great question. I don't know. That's whatever that's the date that was proposed by our clerk to use.
And I think it's a normal
think
election
so.
day.
I
Yes.
guess in an even year, it
Yeah.
would have been
Right.
election day.
Yes. it would-
Did you think about waiting to the annual village meeting when I would think you might have gotten a better turnout, or you just kind of needed to move on this sooner than later, Jane?
We have a lot of business going ahead of us in
got
the
other- you
future.
got other stuff to do
And
with
we
that.
want to get something started
Gotcha.
as soon as we can.
Yeah.
Like, the new water line underneath the river.
Right.
Not wastewater, but it's the other kind of water.
Yeah,
And, we want to get that started too.
yeah.
And that's approved, and we're moving forward with that. As a matter of fact, I have to ask whether or not we can start this fall.
We don't know yet.
Don't know yet, but we're working on it.
And there's a new water line under the
Under the-
highway bridge over the Missisquoi.
Yeah, and I think if it isn't this fall, it'll be early in the spring.
Of course, the bridge itself has issues. That bridge has been... That's another issue, I guess.
That's another issue. Yeah.
That's a
But
headache.
to back up to the
Yeah.
wastewater for prioritization,
Yeah.
the centrifuge, and I'm not an expert, and Jason can weigh in, it is barely operational now. And if it's not operational, you don't dewater properly.
Wow.
You increase the amount and layers and levels of sludge in your lagoons, and that's just going to add to long-term cost 10 or 15 years from now.
Yeah.
So it makes perfect sense, knowing that we have to do this project, to at least expedite it a little bit to get critical components up and running.
Interesting. I guess I'm not sure irony is the word. Maybe it is. We've talked about this before. Nice that the state is, on pushing municipalities to reduce phosphorus and correct me if I'm wrong, when municipalities, the phosphorus getting into Lake Champlain from municipal wastewater systems is a pretty small part of the problem, is it not? Or is a non-point source pollution a much bigger issue than point source, or am I crazy?
I would say that we accept our responsibility of doing the right thing for all the right
Whatever.
reasons, and we take that seriously.
Yeah.
For us, it's like Gene said, we were able to do this without the upgrade, minus all of the failing components, but with an absolute substantial increase in the use of chemicals
Yeah.
at a significant cost. So this Blue Pro system that we're going to now is going to be able to do that and remediate all that with much less chemical usage.
Yep, that's correct.
Yeah.
Do I kind of sound like I know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about now?
yeah.
Okay.
Jason, how long have you been in your job?
I've been at the wastewater plant for 4 years, and I've been the chief operator for the last 2.
Wow,
So
interesting.
Yeah.
Is that your background? Had you been doing other similar jobs before that?
no, I came actually from
Really?
the pharmaceutical field.
Interesting.
yeah.
Speaking of chemicals.
Yeah. So, and I've had a couple other jobs at the village, at the hydro dam, and as a maintenance, and now I'm down at the wastewater plant.
Interesting.
So-
Other staff? You're the key guy, I guess, but yeah.
No, I have one coworker. He's actually running the plant right now, and then our the gentleman that runs the water plant,
Yeah.
he covers on weekends and he's a third hand if needed.
That's right. Poor wastewater plants, a few of them getting a lot of attention, of course, in the July flooding. Johnson comes right to mind. I
Yeah.
guess wastewater plant was just destroyed.
My friend Eric Bailey is just dealing with that on a
Is he
regular
the, is
basis.
he the town administrator
He is,
in Johnson?
yes, yep.
Boy, what are they doing about it? I mean,
It's a total rebuild.
Wow.
Yeah, and it doesn't happen overnight.
oh, I bet.
Yep.
Jeez, what an issue. Speaking of doesn't happen overnight, time frame for this project, Bill, if you get, Jason, if you get approval, when will construction start on this?
Next year.
Next year?
Yeah, to be determined exactly when, unless you have drilled down details that I don't.
No, sometime, to be
Yeah.
determined next summer.
And how long a process, how long for the work?
About 2 years, I believe.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
The bulk of it within a year, but I'd say
Yeah.
what we're all learning
Yeah.
is
This
that
is, I mean, totally new stuff for you since you've been manager, I assume? Or?
it is, except I lived in the building world in my former job in the state police, so
Yeah.
I'm very familiar with permitting processes and how long
I bet.
things take in the
I bet.
construction, but things are backed up. And, whether we're talking about the RIV and the remediation for the remaining contaminants in the soil there are going to
Yeah.
be next year. We're probably
Really?
not going to sell the property for the RIV until next summer or fall.
Really?
It's a 4.5 to 5 year process
Really?
for just that, which seems on its face
Just
a
a
very
soil
simple.
remediation, just that?
Yeah, there were some data gaps, and it's nothing real serious. But we we're going to do the right things for all the right reasons, and we're working with our project partners. They're identifying things that we have to still do. I think they're minor, but everything is a process, right? It's a study, it's
Yeah.
a plan, all signed off on by DEC in the state, Environmental Conservation,
Huh.
and then you execute. So it's just, but we have so many things in the pipeline that's okay, because they all are going to happen, and hopefully in a good, timely manner,
Yeah.
a bit downstream.
How much have you got a projection, I assume, for if the bond issue passes, how much would this increase folks who are, paying, most villagers who are paying for water, wastewater? How much of an increase?
It's very premature,
Yeah.
but roughly $53 per quarter per
Yeah.
user.
And folks get billed per quarter
Yes,
for that, as I do
for
with St. Albans.
wastewater.
I am not sure.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm a St. Albans city resident. I get billed quarterly for water, wastewater.
Yep.
That makes me think of the stormwater utility issue. Have you folks hooked into that also? That adds to my bill and everybody else. And I guess St. Albans Town does the same thing.
No,
Just
so
the-
you're saying you get an extra fee?
I guess an extra
Yes.
fee for the MS4,
Yes.
whatever the runoff
Right.
issue is.
Right. No, we don't have as many stormwater issues. Of course, we don't have as many developments and,
Right.
and opportunities like that in the village. But we're pretty fortunate. We only have 3 parcels that we have ownership of where we have to meet the 3-acre rule for stormwater runoff. The deadline for that is October, to have a plan, 5 years to remediate and then put that plan in place. So pretty fortunate compared to other communities who have a long list of 3-acre rural properties.
Yeah. Interesting. Gene as well.
Sort of on the back burner
Yeah.
for now. I want
Yeah.
to correct one thing. I live in the village and I get my own bills, right?
Yes.
And I pay for water and wastewater every month.
Thank you.
So is that-
Thank you for that.
That's okay.
Good,
But let
Yes.
the public know that
Yes.
we
Monthly.
keep the cash flow monthly
Right.
instead
Yeah.
of quarterly.
Yes.
At any rate, yes, sir. What your question?
Boy, I think I've probably lost my train.
It's
As
okay.
a trustee, is water, wastewater, is that kind of your expertise? Are you the key trustee for issues like this, Jane?
I try to be.
I think some of your background also figures
It
into
is.
this.
It is certainly for part of my background. I do understand most of what they're doing.
Yeah.
I did learn after I became a chemist what biological oxygen demand and that sort of thing was. So I know what they're talking about in general sense. And I think that these fellows are the ones that do the work,
Yeah.
and that's critical.
Yeah.
And the wastewater is taken care of. The stormwater, that's a different issue, which I think is on the back burner for us, like you were saying. I think it's not a huge problem for us
For
at
you
this
guys.
point in time. But the state is looking at that. I understand a little bit about it, but I don't think it's a big project for them right now because of the flood problems that we've had the past summer.
Yeah,
There's a lot of other priorities that they have,
yeah,
a lot.
yeah.
Yeah, we get a finite amount of grant money every year that we utilize for specific small stormwater projects. So we
Yeah.
just did one on Foundry Street, $11,500 grant, and it's a piece of the
Yeah.
puzzle. So, but it is an issue, and it does tie to wastewater. So I can call Jason after a significant storm and ask what our daily amounts gallons are. And it's significantly more after a rainfall. So you know that stormwater, improper stormwater solutions impact your wastewater.
Right,
Yeah.
And that's just hundreds of thousands of more gallons that you're treating.
right.
And it's an impact. It all ties together.
Jason, you run, I know St. Albans City and Burlington certainly has had the issue with a lot of rain, having overflows where some of what's getting into the plant is poorly treated, if treated at all. Maybe it's at least somewhat treated, but do you run into that as heavy rainstorms? Are you getting more volume than you can deal with as you would like to deal with it?
No. Typically, our flows will go up with rain events,
Yeah.
but with the 215-acre lagoons, we have capability of holding more, so we can raise our gates, hold the water longer, so it's not going through the plant as fast, and treat it, and then send it out. We're permitted for like 900,000 gallons to discharge, and typically in the summer in a rain event, a real bad one, we might get up around there, but typically it stays lower. And then we'll, like I said, treat it how it should be and not send out any like half treated or partially treated effluent out. So
Yeah.
we can handle it right now. So, but our, like Bill said, our chemical costs starts going up with that because you have to use more chemicals to treat. So then we have to buy more chemicals because we're going through them quicker. And it
No question about that.
costs a lot.
So again, so the effluent gets into the lagoons. Are we talking then this ends up getting into the Missisquoi River too, or the lagoons aren't the last stop for this?
So you're talking at the end
Yeah.
station?
Yeah.
I'll let Jason cover it.
So the wastewater will come up, go into the lagoons.
Yeah,
Typically, it'll sit in there for 30 days on one lagoon.
yeah,
It'll cross over to the other lagoon, which is like the finishing. It'll be in there for another 30 days. It leaves there, goes into our clarifiers, where the sludge essentially settles out.
yeah.
And then we treat it, and then it goes through UV disinfection, and then back out into the river.
Okay.
So, yeah, we can, like I said, we can handle more water on rain events, and
Does the sludge does someone come, does the sludge get removed? Is that something you have to remove periodically, or?
The answer is yes.
Yeah,
So we had just filed a plan with the state of Vermont that was accepted, where we know we have to start having a conversation about setting aside a significant amount of funding for sludge removal, and I think they projected 10 or 15 years is when
Yes.
they're looking for us to do that project.
is that an issue? Seems like I read about the sludge removal. Are there places that will accept that sludge? Is that kind of becoming a tougher issue to find anybody who will even deal with that, or where that can go?
It's an incredibly complex issue
Yeah.
that I don't think is going to get any cheaper or easier.
Yeah.
Coventry still does that.
Huh.
There's probably going to be a time where they're unable to do that, and Canada's another option, or maybe not. any
no,
longer.
not anymore.
Yeah, is that right?
Yeah.
In New York, does some of this get over to New York State even, or?
I am unsure. I know some of Casella's takes it over New York.
Huh.
Not sure which ones, and I've also heard New Hampshire,
Yeah.
perhaps.
Wow.
We
So-
take care of our own. We don't send ours, as far as I know, we don't send any of ours anywhere. We take care of it ourselves.
Well, the dewatered sludge is a different process. We land up every 2 years on land that we own off Woods Hill Road.
Yeah,
But there's the sludge that settles that doesn't make it to that part that's settled in the lagoons.
Yeah.
That's what the state's going to mandate, that we actually dredge up,
really.
dewater as best as possible, and remove at the cost of a couple bucks a gallon.
Yeah.
Really? Wow.
Yep.
Have you got a sense, Lake Champlain, of course, bottom line is kind of Lake Champlain water quality, an issue for as long as I've been around you, about half a century. You got a sense is, Lake Champlain, Gene, are we making some progress, or are we just kind of trying to hold our own? Have you got any hope for a much cleaner Lake Champlain? Maybe not in our lifetime, but down the road?
Perhaps not, but if we keep working on it,
Yeah,
we can at least hold our own.
yeah,
I'd like to be able to say that we are doing that, but I can't. It's leave that to the state officials to answer.
yeah,
I can't. But I do think that there are some things that can be done that aren't being done.
Yeah.
For instance, we have very strict rules on effluent into Lake Champlain
yeah.
in the state of Vermont. But I don't believe those rules apply in the state of New York, which is a watershed equivalent to our
Sure.
own.
And what about Quebec? Quebec, of course,
I know
Mississippi Bay obviously comes right
it's
to
a
mind.
smaller area,
Yeah.
and I can't comment about their
Yeah.
rules at all. I don't know anything about their rules.
Yeah.
Does
Same.
anybody here?
I do not.
But you're thinking New York doesn't have as strict rules?
I believe they do not.
Huh.
And I don't know the answer to that, except that perhaps maybe our congressman could take care of that.
Yeah. Bill, Lake Champlain, you got a sense, of course, you know Lake Champlain, as I did for a few years, living out in beautiful West Swanton.
Yeah, I live on the water now, and
It's still there.
I closely monitor and track the cyanobacteria map.
How
because I
was
have a
this? How
dog,
was
and
this summer? Just ended for cyanobacteria.
It's still red in my area,
Oh,
so
right.
my black lab does not love looking
Wow.
at me and hearing no. I can't go swimming today.
Wow.
Yeah,
So you don't let your dog even near the water, I assume, or
not in this case. No,
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty nasty for pets, and of course you can't say to your dog, "Hey, don't." You can go in and swim, just don't drink the water.
yeah.
Yeah,
They
right.
don't listen so well.
Jason, you got a sense for Lake Champlain? Obviously, an issue of importance to you and your job. You got any
Yeah.
feel for how we're faring with in trying to improve water quality?
I'd have to say we're probably holding our own, and
Yeah,
hopefully with these upgrades, we'll be doing a little better. We'll be putting less in,
yeah,
and like I said, we're doing what we can to hopefully lessen our effect on it.
yeah. Of course, I guess the flooding didn't help getting a lot of bad stuff in there.
Right.
Yeah.
Lake has finally come down a bit, still at about 97 feet above sea level, still about probably 2.5 feet above
Right.
normal.
That's right.
Just on a personal note, I keep a couple of kayaks down by Kilcare.
Yep.
Made my life easier not having to.
For sure.
But anyway, it certainly wasn't good news for the lake.
Right.
And some concern certainly about next spring if we have a lot of precip over the winter. Obviously,
Yep.
flooding may come into play.
Right.
I suppose it could. 97 is a bit high.
Yeah, like I said, it's good 2.5 feet above average for this time of year.
You look at 95-ish in September.
Yeah, it's about
Not
right.
as low as 93. We've had that at one time, I think, a long time ago.
Yeah, that sounds like right
Pretty
around
bad.
the record low. And of course,
so.
the record high comes right to my mind, 2011.
Sure.
When trying to get out to Taborhausen and West Swanton, could
Right.
barely get on the road. Even the railroad
Right.
tracks
That
were
was-
threatened. That was
yeah.
about 103.27 for the record high.
Can you
And
imagine the amount of water that 10 feet means?
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
this
that's
area
good.
of
That's a good
Lake
point. That's
Champlain.
about 10 feet.
We could send that out to New Mexico or
Yeah,
something.
of course, I love it when weather folks and other people say, with a record high temperature, highest temperature ever. And I love it when they stop at ever. Ever's a long time, folks. How about highest in recorded weather history?
Right.
But that 103.7 was indeed the highest in Lake Champlain's recorded,
Right.
which goes back to 1800 sometime, I think.
Yeah.
I think so.
Anyway, so and you're getting are folks in the village, Bill? You're giving some publicity to this big issue and stuff. You think some folks are paying maybe a little attention to this? Hopefully, with the open houses and forum, they'll pay a lot more attention.
Well, we hope so. It's an opportunity again for us to educate what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
I think again, people generally understand. Well, nobody wants an increase in fees or taxes,
Sure.
and we understand that.
Yeah.
It's a critical need. It's a 30-year-old plant that absolutely needs an upgrade, and it's going to be good for our end users, good for the community, and good for Lake Champlain. So
Yeah.
we're hoping it works out well.
Yeah, I suspect you're not going to hear too many people saying it's a bad project. I guess it comes down to just obviously money and
Right.
obvious concern about people having to pay more for something.
Right.
Gina, hearing much from the public about this at this point?
I've heard almost nothing.
Yeah.
And I think they're acclimated to the fact that the state has issued these orders from 5 or 6 years ago,
Yeah,
and they're just acclimated themselves to the facts.
yeah,
And one of the facts that's come up recently, of course, is the equipment
Yeah.
and the centrifuge, and the cost of that is, I was shocked.
really.
It's very expensive. I can't quote the number right now, but
Well, for the component itself or for the
Yeah.
controls that go
just
with
for the
it, so
component and the controls,
$1 million.
$1 million.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for a piece of equipment that's kind of critical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Wow.
mean, really. And
It's
we'd have to,
the most
Yeah.
critical piece of equipment in a shop.
Yep.
Yeah.
if it doesn't work, we don't work.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Jason, I think you touched on, is it getting tougher, like replacement parts? Did you say you're having tougher to find some replacement parts at times?
Yep. On
And why is that? Why is that the case?
for our centrifuge finding replacement parts, the village purchased that about 30 years ago. So since
does
then,
not make stuff like this the same way anymore or something?
they've updated the model, so there's
Right.
so many more models and upgrades since then. They don't make the components for those.
Wow.
So we're having an issue with it, and to have the part fixed was going to have to be machined out. We have a whole gearbox machine, so
Wow.
it would be more cost effective to purchase a new one rather than put half that money into the used one that's 30 years old.
Yeah.
So
Try. And you hear so much about labor shortage seemingly affecting just about everybody. Are there folks out there when this goes out to bid? Is that even a concern? Are there fewer companies out there doing work like this, or is that not a particular concern or unknown?
We're being told by our engineers, Aldrich and
Yeah.
Elliott, that there are going to be people that are contractors that are going to actively participate in this
Yeah.
bid process, and we should be okay.
That's good. And you mentioned this is an increasing capacity. Did it cross your mind to also, add more capacity, or the price tag's already up to 8 mil? Was that just
We
some-
would have to completely change the system that
Yeah,
we're
right.
running in to include.
Yep.
I can't even imagine
Is that
what
right?
those costs would be
Interesting.
to change.
But
yeah,
it's not something you had to do. Your capacity's okay. You have
Yes.
sufficient
Yeah.
capacity
Yes.
now,
I think we're
Yes,
good.
we do.
even for some more growth.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
we do.
So that's not an issue then anyway.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
Wow.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
And if
Oh, yeah,
it weren't for
sure.
the 15-acre lagoons, maybe we would have to say there is a problem, but there
Right.
isn't.
yeah.
Right.
We really can handle it.
So how much will this decrease the amount of phosphorus when this project is finished? Is this a significant decrease in the phosphorus?
Well, we're meeting state requirements right now
You are.
with far more chemicals. So it's not, I think the different way to look at it is we're going to be able to operate much more efficiently and effectively with
Okay.
less chemical usage while meeting or exceeding state mandates.
Okay.
And I suspect there may be times when even just using chemicals, we'd have a heck of a job meeting
Yes.
and have to use a
Yep.
exorbitant amount.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's not in the cards as far as I'm concerned.
You think is the state being reasonable about this phosphorus issue, Bill?
Yeah, I think, of course, every community would love to have the problem met with a proposal and a solution that's fully funded by the state of Vermont.
Yeah.
It's just not gonna happen.
Yeah.
So, we aggressively sought, utilizing Heidi Brich-Valenta, our new grants administrator and project coordinator,
Yeah.
additional funding and received some additional funding. So we certainly looked for and received everything that we think is out there for
Yeah.
assistance. It's only a certain percentage, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah. Of course, I probably mentioned this on an earlier show. I can flash back to earlier years up here when St. Albans City was under the gun for St. Albans Bay. Almost
Yeah.
sounds like we've gone from St. Albans Bay to Missisquoi Bay to Lake Carmi as kind of your poster child for
Right.
water
Oh,
quality issues.
It is.
Yep.
But for St. Albans Bay, for St. Albans City, it was a big issue. I think Bill Chaffee was probably city manager then, but it was a big, I'm thinking maybe 15, 20 mil, but in those good old days, maybe circa 1980 or so, I think the feds picked up 75% of that project costs.
Right.
Those days, obviously, long gone.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of federal funds out there for water and wastewater.
Yeah.
But it's different for different communities. If you have no water or wastewater capabilities as a community, you're going to get more money.
Yeah.
This is an upgrade.
Yeah.
So a little bit less money for upgrades, but any money is appreciated.
Yeah. Other issues to talk about, does that cover wastewater? We can always go back to that later, but anything else you want to say about the wastewater vote coming up? And again, open houses form a good chance for the public if they can get themselves motivated to really get a look at this.
Yeah, no, we can close it with love to see people come out on either, and we tried to spread it out on Saturday, October 14th, Thursday, October 19th, and we'll have that on our social media, our website, and then the public forum on October 30th. That'll be at the Swanton Municipal Complex.
And the vote November 7th.
Correct. Yep.
And speaking of the website, I know that's been given some attention. You have a much kind of user-friendlier website these days for combined village and town?
Yeah, I think so. I think, it depends. Websites are great for static displays. It's much user-friendly. It's much easier for us on our end to post updates and things like that. So I don't have any recent tracking numbers to talk about whether traffic's increased significantly or not, but it's much better than our old websites collectively.
That's what I'm hearing from the town folks, too. And it sounds like you gave that some good attention.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Boy, so so you have the wastewater. That's the first thing coming up November 7th.
Yes.
Public safety, proposed new public safety building.
Yep.
Bill, would that be kind of number 2, or we tell me?
Yeah, it's a 1A. We believe collectively that it's a critical need, that we are really on the precipice at this point of being out of space, and that's an understatement.
And anybody who knows the village, and I suspect most folks do, the police department, just a very small department. Very small.
Very small, physical space-wise.
Physical
Yes.
space-wise.
So again,
Nice.
I can't overstate the leadership that we have in Chief Matt Sullivan. We have people, we're fully staffed, I believe, based on my background and current knowledge, that we're the only fully staffed police department in the state of Vermont.
Yeah, you've said that.
And we have
Interesting.
multiple people fully certified knocking on our door, ready to join.
Do you really?
We do.
Wow.
So it's that
Well, you said your old
opportunity.
friends of the state police should be so lucky, huh?
Yeah, that's a different story.
Yeah.
There's still about 60 down.
Is that right? That's in 60 troopers statewide?
Correct. That's right.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
And
isn't
St. Albans Barracks presumably has some of that shortfall.
Oh, I'm sure they do. You spread the wealth as equitably as possible.
Who's
based on
the
caseload.
commander of St. Albans Barracks
It's
these days?
just switched.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. like
Anyway,
last
so a
month.
new person
Yeah,
in there.
new person in there.
Huh.
Yeah. But the public safety facility, it's really multiple layers. We have an opportunity, and we purchased, using ARPA funds, the land right next door to our current complex on
Right.
124 First Street. For those that are familiar with it, it was the Anderson Concrete and then Carroll Concrete. Valley's bought it. We bought it off of Valley's last year. It was last year. Maybe this year, early this year. Anyway, it's been a whirlwind. So the complex looks reasonably good on the outside
Yeah.
that we're currently in.
Yeah.
Inside, it's not good at all. The HVAC system is dated. It's in poor condition. We're out of room across the board in every area. It's 50-year-old building.
Wow.
And people don't realize that. So the priority is to move public safety, fire, and police next door into a new facility, and then renovate a portion of the existing facility. Essentially where the fire department is and where Public Works and Electric share is to leave that largely untouched, just because of cost constraints. Keep Missisquoi Valley Rescue where they are, by the way. We had entertained moving them over, but that's an extra $3 million. So to help reduce cost, we're trying to just repurpose where the electric department and public works are. We would put public works where the fire department is, and then electric would be able to spread out a little bit. If you walk into our offices right now, we have 5 people smashed into one office as soon as you walk in.
Yeah.
It's just not going to meet the future needs. The police department, back to that, it's scalable. It's going to be perfectly functional as an full-time, 8 part-time department, but we could triple the size of personnel and still fit in that building. So I think the game plan, and I believe we've had a lot of meetings with the governance structure in the town. The game plan is to bond for the public safety facility. By law, it's village voters only. We wish that wasn't the case.
Interesting.
But that's the way the construct is. That's the way the laws are written. So we will bond for that. In a perfect world, at the same time in March, the town will put an article on language something like, in the event of a successful public safety bond vote by the village, shall the town voters approve? And what we would love to see is mirrored coverage for police, 20 hours a day. So you would have only from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. uncovered. Then what you would see, Gene is a taxpayer in the village. For police services right now in a $250,000 home,
Yeah.
he pays about $1,295 for police annually. The town, because they only get an 8-hour chunk and there are more town residents, pay $88. If you assumed coverage uniformly across all voters, the rate would be $707.95. So
For
everybody.
Everybody.
So equitable, better coverage, less confusing, a professional policing environment, responding to things that affect our daily lives. So on paper, Gene would see a decrease from $1,295 to $707.
Yeah.
However, the bond amount is going to have to be borne by the village taxpayers. So it's going to be an increase from $1,295, but slight. We don't have a crystal ball. We're not sure that that's going to end up on the ballot. We're not sure that the voters are going to do it. But we also know that there's interest, some limited interest from places like Enosburg Village, Sheldon, Highgate.
Highgate, of course, St. Albans City, another 1-year contract. And I forget if I asked the chief, but I think this might, of course, they've got St. Albans Stand that they pick up next July 1st. So might be the last year for the city in Highgate.
Yeah, I think it probably would be. And it's an opportunity because you take that 707 amount, that's with doubling the size of the Swanton Police Department to cover. Well, if you pick up another community, it's in entirety, you don't have to double again. You don't even have to go a third again. You can now start to really share those uniformed resources, and you're going to see the cost even go down more. Starting to see 600, 500. A much more reasonable. Again, we don't have a crystal ball, but factually, here's what I know. If we don't have a successful bond vote in March, all of these other discussions about mirrored police coverage or expanding regionally go off the table because we don't have the physical space to make it happen.
Right. And we're definitely talking March vote, annual village meeting for the public safety facility.
That's what the trustees are going with at this point.
That looks pretty solid now, Gene.
Well, that's our goal.
That's the goal.
And I think, we have to put it out there.
And the price tag, you got a rough price tag now for that?
We're waiting on that.
We're waiting a little bit, yeah.
So I would say, I thought we'd have it by now. I hope we have it within 2 weeks.
So pretty close.
Yes,
I
maybe a
assumed-
month.
I assumed the end of September, but it'd be a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal for me. However, right now, all I can say is the police department is saddled.
Yeah.
It is an
I
example.
mean, just physical space wise.
Physical space. I went into the office a short time ago, and they had, I think Bill was gone that day, but I think they had some business in the existing space. They had taken the auditorium for another case, and maybe somebody was using his office.
Oh, yeah, there's, so if you
So
execute,
this happens.
yeah,
I mean, and all these people,
right.
he would have been displaced. Heidi was displaced,
Yeah.
and we're struggling. They function,
Yeah.
but not
I
efficiently.
think anybody in the village, I logged some time in there with former Chief Mike McCarthy once in a while, but it's just a very small amount of physical space. I should note, we're taping the show on Monday, September 25th, in case there any time references come up. Jason, you want to jump in the public safety building? Anything to add
no.
from your end?
No, that's out of my realm.
Yeah, you got enough stuff to deal with, I guess.
Yeah,
He does.
yeah.
He does.
So anyway, price tag, you'll be nailing that down pretty soon, it sounds like.
I think so.
Yeah.
And an item of interest for the public is what I'm hearing from, large firms and contractors and that sort of thing. If you postpone an item for a year or so,
Yeah,
it's approximately an increase of 5 to 8%.
just with inflation,
Increase because of
inflationary pressures,
inflation.
whatever. Yeah.
And that's their goal. And to be perfectly honest with you, I think they used that in something that we were voting on a while ago, and the contracts came up 45% over,
Right.
not 5 or 8. And that's in my mind, I don't want to leave that for my children and grandchildren.
Yeah,
That sort of thing going to be astronomical in cost 10 years from now.
yeah. Gene, you've been a trustee, I think a couple, 3 stints for yourself, but this issue's been out there. I mean, the lack of physical space. Did you think in years past about moving on something? I can only assume this came up before.
I love this question.
It's an interesting question because I was somewhat involved when they built the facilities we have now. And of course, we've added a couple of buildings on the way.
Yeah.
And certainly, I've spent a lot of my time with the increase in the electrical production and that sort of thing.
Yeah,
But I assumed when the building was new, God, we had the world, and it was a wonderful space, and it didn't take very long. And when I first became a trustee, I used to walk through the buildings, and there wasn't much space. Now you have to be careful when you walk through the building.
yeah,
And I do that sometimes. I haven't done it on a Saturday or Sunday recently, but I have as recent maybe as April or May. And, you're not talking about the snow removal equipment or anything like that. You just have to be careful where you're walking.
yeah.
And you look outside and in the fenced-in area, thank God, people don't steal transformers, but there are some expensive items sitting right there out in the open.
Yeah.
And I think we got to have more space. And the place really, I don't see how they function.
Yeah, we often focus on just the police and the limited space.
Yeah.
But we'll have a series of open houses, many more than 5. And honestly, if
sure.
somebody just stops in
Yeah.
and wants a tour,
Come on.
we'll give them a tour. But
Yeah.
we're keeping millions of dollars of equipment that should be outside on a
Really?
regular basis.
Wow.
And you have very little room in public works and electric to function. So just by alleviating that, even without much structural change,
Yeah.
we're at least going to increase the ability to store expensive equipment, have a little more functionality and room in the complex.
Right. So what are you getting from the Swanton town folks? And I interviewed Earl Fournier, Betsy Fournier,
Yep.
Brian Savage
Mhm.
recently. And it sounds like what you're looking for, ideally, is kind of St. Albans City and Town, with St. Albans PD taking over St. Albans Town next July 1st, and pretty much a 50-50 split on expenses. It sounds like ideally you're looking for something like that.
I'll simplify it. We're looking
Yeah.
for the select board to have the courage to ask the voters
Yeah.
if that's what they want.
If they would buy into this.
It's the same thing. We have deep respect for the voters across the board, and we understand they have choices. So
Yeah.
the first step is the bond with us.
Yeah.
And if that's successful, you could put in that language about the mirrored police coverage, and it wouldn't start the next day,
Right.
and it would have to be for a 10-year period.
Yeah.
Really bad
Not like
form
you
to
can
go
do
year to year.
obviously.
What do you do to the 8 cops that you hired? Tell them a year later when it's not successful, they got to pack up and go.
Right.
You may as well shut the door on your entire police department, because that'll be the end of it.
Yeah.
So, we're simply asking, and we have a great relationship with Swanton Select Board. The trustees do, and we've had some joint meetings, we've had some discussions, and I heard Earl Fournier, the chair, say on your program last time he was here that he believes they're going to take it to the voters. So
Yeah.
we're gonna keep that dialogue going, and hopefully Swanton Town will take that to the table to the voters in March.
Right. But aside from that, you're moving ahead regardless of that with the public safety, the bond on the public safety facility, which you need to do. I mean, aside from
Correct.
Swanton
Yes.
Town ends up jumping in or not.
The answer is yes,
Yes. Yep.
as far as I'm concerned.
Yes.
And I think the rest of the board is certainly on board with this.
Right, and of course, speaking of big issues, speaking of Swanton Dam, their big issue seems to be the proposed new recreation community center, and it looks like they're looking. It sounds like definitely not town meeting day. Maybe just as well with other stuff on the ballot for folks, but it looks like they're probably looking at a November 2024 election for their
Right.
big issue for Swanton Town.
Right.
I think Earl's told me it would be the first bond vote in Swanton Town. I think he said.
I've heard that.
Yeah, I think so.
I heard that from him.
But it's a big issue that they're working on.
Right.
Still have about 14 minutes left. Other big, I guess I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about the relicensing. How's that faring these days with the hydro plant relicensing?
I'll go with as expected.
As expected.
We know it's an onerous process.
Right,
We know
so it
there's
sure
a lot
sounds
of
like it.
hurdles. So there's two parts to it, right? There's the 401 from the state of Vermont that you get from ANR, Agency of Natural Resources.
Yeah.
And then you have the federal FERC relicensing. Both are well underway. We have some extensions for some additional studies. And Richard, that's what you keep seeing, right? There's always data gaps. There's always identified needs that you need to do additional reports. But through our attorney, who's an expert in this, we're on pace. Very highly unlikely that we'll be relicensed by April of 2024.
Which is the deadline, such
Yes.
as it is, or
And we're not alone.
yeah.
There's others.
Enosburg Falls is going through the
Enosburg
same
Falls,
thing, right?
Morrisville.
Same thing.
Morrisville was first, then Enosburg Falls is about a year ahead of us,
Yeah.
and now us. I'm confident we'll get there. We simply have to keep meeting the mandates that are proposed to us by both the federal government and the state of Vermont.
And I'm sure those mandates never change. You never get new mandates, of course, right? I'm kidding. I think
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
always
no,
some-
there's always something. And look, I'm being as serious as possible here. We want to do again the right things for the right reasons all the time. So we're certainly going to continue to have a dialogue and to be fully compliant with all of these studies as needed. I think a lot of it is the state of Vermont would love to have a conversation and tie in the removal of the lower Swanton Dam.
Right, no, it's on my list here.
And the trustees, and I'll let Gene speak for it, historically have been very clear, and candidly, the voters
Yeah.
were about 76% in
I know it
favor.
came up to a kind of a referendum, non-binding referendum vote a
Right.
few years ago, strong
Yeah.
support for
Yeah.
keeping the dam.
Certainly, there was support still there.
But boy, the state is totally clear on that. They would love that dam out of there.
Yeah, it's not technically part of our 401 permit. It's not part
No.
of our relicensing. I just think that would open the door to a different dialogue.
Yeah,
That doesn't appear favorable. It's nothing that we would like to pursue at this time. So it's the normal process. We'll run on our past license once it expires, as long as we're doing due diligence and we
Yeah.
in good faith are fully participating.
yeah,
We'll be okay on our old license.
yeah. Boy, it does sound like just an incredibly time-consuming. It sounds like the state's, I think you may have told me before, state's been a bit tougher to deal with than the feds on this, or
I don't know if it's tougher.
tougher maybe is not the right word. But,
I think it's maybe it's a little bit different lens.
Yeah.
You know, they're looking more particularly for habitat and fish species and studies related to how the flow impacts all of that from the lower dam all the way down to the mouth of the lake.
the state looks
Correct.
more.
That's
Do
right.
the feds, is that an issue for the feds? Do they care about the lower village dam?
So what happens is FERC and the feds assume and track all of those studies that you do. So they go to them at the same time.
Anyway, so the process moves on. Swanton Village Electric Department, you still have about the cheapest electricity rates in the state. Is that not change? Is that
It's lower. I think we're in the bottom
Third lowest.
third
third
number
lowest?
three
Yeah.
lowest. One other subject that I wanted
Yeah.
to bring up earlier, and I
Yeah, got
forgot.
another 10 minutes, whatever you want to jump into.
We're talking about the water quality in Missisquoi Bay.
Yeah,
I mean, I live on the river,
yeah,
and with the storms that we've had this past summer,
yeah.
I wish someone could calculate the amount of phosphorus that came into the bay
Yeah.
and Lake Champlain in general
Yeah.
from that runoff. I mean, you're talking about
That's
water
like
that was
significant.
obviously full of topsoil.
Yeah,
And I don't know what kinds of fertilizers farmers might be using or where all this topsoil came from.
Yeah,
I assume maybe from agricultural purposes, but I don't know if that's true.
yeah.
I suppose it is. But my goodness, somebody should try to calculate that and let us know
Yeah.
how much phosphorus went in there.
Yeah,
And I think it's going to be a very, very high number.
yeah. I wouldn't
It's
be
unbelievable.
surprised at all if you're right. No, it sounds like the state and the lake took a real hit from the flooding.
I don't think I've ever seen the water that high in the summer months before. Have you?
Yeah,
No.
I've been around for a while. Yeah, I would pretty much second that. Yeah,
Is
like
that
I said,
right?
with my kayaks down at Kilkenny,
Yeah,
I'm so
right.
used to dragging them down Long
Yeah.
Beach and stuff. No, I mean with the dock in St. Albans Bay, which is at about 98 feet above sea level. I mean underwater in July. I mean,
Right.
oh yeah, no, that's extremely
It's
unusual.
unreal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's unusual. But there's got to be I don't know if there's an answer to that. That's
Yeah.
nature, and we can't really affect that a great deal.
I heard a truck traffic issue the other day. I guess for gens, there's some. I don't know if it's a state study, but I think it was just a radio news story about someone studying the truck traffic going through Virgins. And I said, "Gee, imagine a municipality being concerned about truck traffic." But
Yeah.
anyway, anything new to report on the truck traffic issue?
No, we look forward to the completion of the project in Canada, just over the line on 35.
Yeah, I was up there the other day. Yeah,
Yeah.
looks like there's construction anyway.
Yeah, the end is in sight, and hopefully that reduces our impact by about 25%.
Yeah.
We should mention the bridge. So we know we have $200,000
That's
for the next funding season, next construction season. So calendar year 2024, and we just got the bridge inspection report, and we highlighted that at our last meeting. A series of photographs. We must replace and repair our expansion joints. So on each side of the bridge are an expansion joint. We own the bridge, even though we tried to give it back to the state of Vermont, and they politely declined.
Oh, is that right? Interesting.
Well, I would too, because
Yeah.
they cost money. So we know it's going to be a larger cost than that. So probably in March, we will have to have a budget increase to make sure we set aside enough to properly repair the bridge. We're going to go out with an RFP, a request for proposal for bids this fall, early winter. Two ways. One is the traditional way, where you shut down one lane, you kind of do the work and you work around. But option B is going to be contractors tell us if there's a way to shut down on a Friday morning, completely reroute traffic.
Huh.
Over 10,000 vehicles a day
Wow. Is that wow?
around BB Road. But if they can do it in 4 or 5 days
Yeah.
and get both done.
Yeah.
So we have to do expansion joints, we have to mill, and we have to pave.
Interesting.
And then the full bridge replacement is scheduled for 2029.
Huh.
We'll talk very soon, starting next year, about our requirements for set aside. We own 5 to 10% of those costs, depending upon a number of factors, but a minimum of 5%. We know it's going to be a $10 million project. I hear 10 million now. I know in our mind,
Wow.
call
gonna
it
be higher.
15. It's
Yeah.
going to be higher
Wow.
by 2029.
Yeah,
So
unfortunately.
How long would that project take?
I don't know.
We're working on that. We'd like to find out.
You would keep it. Would that be the new bridge coming in right next to the current bridge?
No.
And so traffic? No. So I mean,
Right where it is.
right where it is.
Yeah.
Wow.
They have talked about a temporary bridge.
So maybe
I don't
maybe
know if
it's-
that's going to happen.
boy,
We
maybe a
filled. We
temporary
just
bridge.
we just completed the study, the engineering study for them to answer. It's a questionnaire. I don't know if there's a viable site. So the answer is, and they don't know yet. It depends on the inspection just prior to that. If it's just decking, so if they remove the decking, so North Hero Bridge, for example, very
Right.
quick. Half of it's done. 6 months, 6 to 9 months. That bridge was done.
As opposed to the drawbridge issue out there, which
4 years.
How many? Mind blowing.
4 years.
The new Champlain
4
Bridge
years.
in Montreal took about half that time.
Right.
Anyway.
Yes. Yeah, so we're waiting on that definitive delay and cost. The Missisquoi water line, we hope that happens. We could get some work done. The boring under the river has to happen first. Very technical nature.
Yeah.
When that happens, then they can do the rest of it and connect. And ultimately, that will become our primary line. The one on the bridge will become the redundant line. And then when bridge replacement, I'm going to assume we're not going to put a water line back up there for redundancy
Yeah.
at that point. So that's a conversation for another day. We have hired VHB as a contract, an engineering service for our downtown enhancement. So we have $375,000, a $300,000 grant, $75,000 match. We will start doing some outreach. That is to improve pedestrian and bicycle flow of traffic.
Since I've been through town a few times, going out to West Swanton,
Yep.
and I saw the little sign there, Swanton Redevelopment Phase 3. Is that what I saw that sign downtown. Is that separate from what
That's
you're...
a sign. I have no idea what
I
you're
think it was
talking about.
Swanton Redevelopment Phase 3, but interesting. Gene, is
I
that
didn't see it either.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
didn't see it.
I don't think I dreamt that, but I guess
You-
always that chance.
When I drive by there on the way
I
back.
think it's just right in the heart of downtown there. Yeah, right in front of it. I think I saw it right kind of in front of Ace as I was going by, heading out towards West Swanton. But
Whenever somebody's idea of a joke.
Yeah, I don't know. So that's going to happen. That's not going to kick off until really the engineering and construction folks will come in next year. We're not going to see the construction changes until 2025, early in 2025. It's like any other grant. It's just it takes a long time, but you're going to see some improved crosswalks, some enhancements. But we need to enhance the parking lot on the left side, the south side of Merchants Row. We own that now. We bought that this year. We're looking for grants to do that. We're looking for grants for the public safety building. You know, with Heidi Britch-Valenta on board, we always had the capability internally. We just didn't have a capacity.
Yeah.
She's the capacity builder for us. So she's looking at that. And then there's any number of other projects. We know we're going to take a long-term look at hydroelectric needs. So like Jason talks about his panels and controls being 30 years old,
yeah,
that's what the exciters and the other controls are for the hydro.
really.
And while those turbines can go 100, 150 years
Can they
and be
really?
workhorses,
Wow.
the components that run them, they're aged, and you can't find. You actually literally have to have somebody come in
Wow.
and hand make
Really.
pieces and parts for certain things. So that's a longer term project for us. And then Public Works, we have a series of things that we're doing for signage, for streets, for sidewalks, for paving. That's what I still love about this job.
Yeah.
38 great employees. It's a great team, supportive trustees, and they're busy days. I drove into the office at 7 tonight knowing that the trustees meeting starts 12 hours later,
Yeah.
knowing that there's there's meetings tomorrow night and Thursday night, development review board, all kinds of great projects going on.
So did you realize exactly what probably not exactly, but did you realize what you were getting into when you got the job, Bill? Sounds like you got a lot of stuff to deal with.
Yeah, not exactly,
Good
but
question.
I came from a very fast-paced world as a number 2 in the state police. And whether it was projects, critical incidents, personnel, grants, it's very similar. But again, I have 10 direct reports. I don't have to be an expert in wastewater.
Yeah.
I have Jason. I don't have to, and that's the same across the board.
Yeah.
I don't have to be an expert. I simply have to take direction from the trustees
Yeah.
and be a leader and let the team do what they do. And they
Right.
do it so well.
Yeah. So down to about less than a minute. Jason, you'd like to see some of the public at the, again, open houses at the wastewater facility, October 14 and October 19. I'm sure you'd like to
Yep.
see some folks
Yeah.
come down and see what you're up to down there.
Come down, we'll take you through the plant, show you, and explain the processes.
Yeah. And again, leading up to a vote, November 7, open forum coming up also on October 30. So good chance for the public to deal with this. Gene, you want a few more seconds? A lot of stuff going on.
It seems like we're very, very busy.
Yeah.
And I knew that we were when we interviewed Bill.
Yeah.
And we were looking for that sort of leadership, and
Yeah.
I think we got it.
Well, anyway, I guess we'll leave it right there. Thanks to Eugene LeBombard, Swanton Village trustee, Bill Sheets, the Swanton Village manager, and Jason Starr, close to a wastewater treatment facility supervisor. But a lot of stuff going on. Thanks for the time. Appreciate it. Good luck with everything.
Thank you.
Thanks to producer Alan out there. I'm Richard Cowperthwait. We appreciate you watching us on Northwest Access TV. See you next time.
us.